Welcome to the PDX files. Each week we dive into the weird and the unexplained here in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. My name is Peach.
And I'm Mac.
Mac, what are we talking about today?
I mean, there's been some really weird stuff going on for years, apparently, before we sort of know about some of the stuff. Some deaths within the community of, I don't want to say UFOs, but NASA certainly, and even beyond that, certainly tech. They've been very strange. Even most recently, like the last couple of days, we've seen up to 13 folks who have been unalived. I guess is that how you do it on YouTube, maybe, but it's not good. So we're gonna kind of look into it and see if we see any pattern or, um, you know, is it real? Is it happening? I hope not. Let's just say that.
Well, I know you gave me a little bit of a heads up on this topic, but I have not seen these videos, and there's actually three that we will be reviewing as part of this episode.
That's right.
And so my responses will be very authentic. Here's the first one.
Newly revealed messages have drawn even more suspicion about the resurfaced death of one of 11 scientists with ties to America's space and nuclear secrets who have mysteriously died or disappeared. Anti-gravity researcher Amy Eskridge allegedly died from a self-inflicted gunshot in June of 2022 when she was just 34 years old, according to the Daily Mail. However, Frank Milburn, a retired British paratrooper and intelligence officer who says he was in contact with Eskridge before her death, shared shocking messages with the outlet. One dated May 13, 2022 read, "If you see any report that I killed myself, I most definitely did not.
Oh,
If
wow.
you see any report that I overdosed myself, I most definitely did not. If you see any report that I killed anyone else, I most definitely did not." Milburn says Eskridge told him that she had been the target of repeated physical and psychological attacks, including from a directed energy weapon, a device said to emit focused energy capable of causing burns or
Oh wow.
irreversible harm. The researcher specializing in anti-gravity, which is a staple topic among UFO enthusiasts, also mysteriously warned in a 2020 interview that her life might be in danger while discussing her research company, the Institute for Exotic.
I started the Institute for one reason. One reason, the Institute. I started it as a public facing persona to disclose anti gravity technology through, because I told Mark this. If you stick your neck out in public, at least someone notices if your head gets chopped off.
Eskridge also revealed that she had been receiving threats and that she had plans to disclose information about UFOs and extraterrestrials to the public. Her death was ruled a suicide, and neither the police nor the medical examiners have publicly released any details of an investigation into her death. Eskridge's death was unearthed after an already growing web of concerning deaths and disappearances of NASA scientists and individuals with ties to U.S. space and nuclear secrets.
What?
House
Okay, so let's
Oversight
hold
Committee
on here.
Chairman
Let's
James.
just go ahead and pause for a second. So, I mean, we sort of believe in like things that have patterns, right? I think the both of us
Yeah.
do. Like you can sort of look at that. This is kind of a weird start to this video, and this is not regulated to just this person, as you'll see throughout some of the other videos that we have posted that we're reacting to. And believe me, we're not worth sending any kind of technology to kill us. We're good. We're not going to do anything crazy, but this is kind of some weird stuff. And the fact that people who are posting some of the stuff beyond heard saying that, yeah, I'm not suicidal and I'm not killing myself is kind of a weird kind of situation. I'm not sure. Tell me some of your initial feedback, I guess.
Well, it's kind of almost playing to the trope of if you know too much, then and if about something that the government does not want to be made public, that there are ways that people in can make something happen, right? To you, whether
Yeah.
they, at most post libelous, defamatory, things about you, or at worse, making you disappear, right? And I know, like I said,
Yeah.
it's a trope because it's been played out in fictional TV shows and movies and whatnot. So, obviously, this is just the first of 3 videos, so it's intriguing if it were true.
It's an interesting start, right? Yeah,
Right.
definitely. And a scary start. I mean, it's like, I think people who would want to watch this, like, again, we're not sort of suggesting that any of this stuff is happening like for real, but let's look at the patterns. Let's look at the reasons why they might. I think that's nothing outside of our parameters as far as we go.
All right, let's continue with the video here. I have to like backtrack a little bit.
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer warned Fox News that something sinister could be happening and that the matter raises urgent national security concerns.
Yeah, when I first heard about this, I thought, well, that can't be true. That sounds like some kind of crazy conspiracy theory.
The strange background.
Once you see the facts, it would suggest that something sinister could be happening, and it would be a national security concern.
The disturbing cases have since sent internet sleuths into a frenzy, searching for answers about the unsettling pattern. Michael David Hicks, who worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Flint Ridge, California, as a research assistant, passed away at the age of 59 in July of 2023. However, there's no public cause of death or autopsy for Hicks' passing, nor any mention of how he died in his obituary, although it does ask for donations in his memory to go to
Pay
alcohol
attention
and
to
stuff.
this.
3 other scientists with ties to NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, or JPL, have either gone missing or died over the past few years, even as recently as February. On February 16, 2026, renowned
2026,
astrophysicist
yeah,
Carl Grillmeyer, who worked on NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope, was suddenly and shockingly shot dead on the porch of his home in California. His shooter, Freddie Snyder, was arrested and is currently in jail. However, a clear motive has yet to be established. Another researcher at NASA's JPL, Frank Mywald, died in July 2024 at the age of 61. Like Hicks, there's little to no public information about how he died. JPL's former newly appointed director of its materials processing group, Monica Reza, mysteriously went missing in June of 2025 while hiking with friends in the Angeles National Forest in California.
This is a weird one, by the way.
Since Reza's research in materials science was funded by the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Base in Ohio, which is long rumored to hold extraterrestrial debris tied to the famous 1947 Roswell crash. The Air Force Research Lab was headed up by retired Air Force General William McCaslin, who also has shockingly gone missing. McCaslin mysteriously vanished on February 27, 2026 from his Albuquerque, New Mexico home, along with a pair of hiking boots and a .38 caliber revolver. McCaslin was also the former research commander at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, which works closely on national security projects with Los Alamos National Laboratory, famous for developing nuclear weapons during the Manhattan Project. In June of 2025, 2 workers from Los Alamos, Anthony Chavez and Melissa Casillas, vanished from their homes in eerily similar circumstances. Chavez, age 79, was last seen leaving his New Mexico home on foot, leaving behind his car, wallet, phone, and keys. Casillas, age 54, was last seen on camera walking alone on a highway, also without her wallet, phone, or keys, after telling family members she would be working from home, Dateline reported. Other dead or missing scientists include Jason Thomas, who led the chemical biology team at Novartis and was found dead in a lake this past March. Famous MIT physicist Nuno Loureiro, who was shot and killed last December, and Stephen Garcia, who worked on security for a producer of non-nuclear components in American-made nukes and went missing in August of last year. As of now, no federal agency has publicly acknowledged any connection between the cases. Comer shared he plans to bring the leaders of several federal agencies' offices before Congress and asked that anyone affiliated with America's nuclear program should be on alert, given the possible security risks to the nation.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, to me, what they're involved with and kind of the work that they're doing is it's very strange that it's definitely the sort of suggestion of a pattern that's happening, and it's been happening for years. And honestly, we don't know for how many more years because it may have been happening even before this. So to me, this is it's pretty legit. Maybe not some of the admin people, but honestly, I mean, we're talking about a lot of similar. And again, we're going to get into some of these. We're going to do a couple more links to some of the videos, but if you just think about it right now, it's like there's some very similar deaths. Like they go out, they don't take their phone, they don't take their identification. They're doing a lot of weird stuff that you wouldn't expect. And so, is that have you ever seen Death Note as a show? It seems very similar to some of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I take it very seriously. It's like it doesn't really make any sense why these folks would go out to the middle of nowhere without any ID or phones or guns. I
Right.
mean, it's some of them. You know what I'm saying? It's very strange.
Yeah, and if this were like if you had a murder wall in front of you and you were just putting all of these pieces, separate pieces together on one wall, you, you to your point from earlier, like you'll start to see a pattern, right? But this isn't any kind of like apophenia type of thing, right? Where we just try to see patterns where
No,
maybe
it's the same
there's
stuff.
connection. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, to your point, the similarities are there. Hiking is involved, leaving the wallets and keys and phones at home, and the fact that these are all working, folks who are working with highly sensitive and UFO related or science, very high science that's kind of like adjacent
yeah. That's what
to
I'm
that
saying. Let's get
kind of work.
like whether or not you believe they're involved with the UFOs or not. I mean, they're involved with high tech in
Right.
the U.S. right, and on the cutting edge of things. And so you have to sort of look at that as being like a really strange kind of like factor. Now, the fact that they are sort of involved in certain areas of the UAP kind of mindset and kind of stuff that they're looking into, especially the anti gravity. I mean, it's like that's insane. That's like that's what they're researching, and you know, um, I guess we should let some of the other evidence sort of lay out before it's give like a full, uh, I guess verdict from our mindset. I guess we got a couple more links.
All right, we've got a couple more videos here. Here's the next one.
Indeed.
Well, the twists just keep coming. 2 more people are
And this
linked
is
to the
new. This
mysterious
is
web
new.
of dead or missing American scientists and
The
researchers.
guy on the far right or left
13.
is
The FBI is now reviewing the
involved
death
in
of
the.
NASA nuclear engineer Joshua LeBlanc, who was killed in a fiery car crash last July after he went missing without his phone and wallet.
And
Also under review and
again,
scrutiny tonight is the death of David
the
Wilcock,
last couple of
a
weeks.
paranormal UFO researcher and writer whose death was ruled a suicide. We're also learning that several scientists from China have also turned up dead, too. Join me now is NewsNation national security contributor Tracy Walder. Great to see you, Tracy. So let's start with the 13 American cases. Joshua LeBlanc didn't have a phone and a wallet. Very strange, like some of the others who have gone
Similar.
missing. On top of that fact, all 13 worked in related fields. To a lot of people watching, these may be obvious connections, government work, maybe secret clearances, but no agency that any of them worked for has definitively said that they are connected. So from an investigative perspective, what are we missing here?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Katie. I think the key in this case is what they didn't leave their home with, right? You mentioned before that really all of them, particularly the ones that are still, I guess, considered to be missing, all left home without their essential personal effects. So things like keys, wallets, that kind of thing. And so I think that's key. It is true, most of the agencies have said that none of them were working on that exact same project, but I think they don't have a choice in this investigation to go to all of these agencies and figure out exactly what it was that each of them are doing. And unfortunately, that's going to take some time, which isn't great when you have some people who are still missing.
So on that point, the people on the list there's a range of what they did and where they worked. A retired Air Force general, NASA lab director. Is it normal for the government not to know what's happening with such high-profile people, or there are enough people working inside these agencies with these types of jobs and security clearances that maybe they wouldn't think twice about something happening to them just in the realm of life after they either left their job or maybe just went out for a walk?
I think it's the latter, not the former. So listen, in these agencies and even at the CIA when I worked there, we don't necessarily know always what the other person is doing simply because clearances we have are all compartmentalized, right? And so I think
For sure.
that's part of the problem too, is that they don't all know what they were doing. And the government, quite frankly, doesn't know. The FBI doesn't even have clearance to what some of these individuals are doing. They're going to have to be
Yep.
read into that. And I think that's going to be problematic.
So China, of course, is no stranger to having their scientists go missing or disappear or end up dead. The Wuhan lab researcher who was labeled patient zero after the COVID-19 outbreak disappeared, was never found, typical of Chinese
Not
Communist
surprised by
Party
that one.
behavior. But is it possible, we've heard this from a number of congressmen, that there could be a national security implication here, that this could be some kind of tit for tat between the U.S. and China, or is that taking it a step too far?
So I'm just going to give my opinion. I feel that it's a step too far. Listen, I completely agree with you that this is an MO that we have absolutely seen of the CCP. They have definitely engaged in that in some of their scientists, as well as some of their dissidents as well. There's no question. But the issue is I just look at the tradecraft that I know China works when I worked Chinese counterintelligence and when I worked nuclear weapons. I think the issue is that's not typically how our espionage tradecraft works. We want people alive and we want people to have access to current information. If you look at McCaslin, he's been retired for quite some time.
Right, right. That's true. Tracy Welder, thanks for joining us. Great to see you.
Thank you, Katie.
I mean, I think that's a really good view from the intelligence standpoint, right? It's like, clearly these things are not normal. And also, they would want somebody who to report to them who is like, on the cutting edge of what's happening now, not like 20 years ago, right?
Right.
So, could some of these deaths be just coincidental? Yes, definitely. But there's a pattern to some of the things that we're hearing already. It's like, that didn't seem like how someone would die, right? You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like, leaving your house, going on a hike without a phone and keys and this kind of stuff. That doesn't seem like what normal people would do, even if they're trying to commit suicide. And again, maybe that is, maybe that's just something that, we really don't know, but it seems a bit weird.
It's
Let's just
it's
say
too
that.
it's too weird, and too coincidental to be ignored, right? I mean, it's one thing if it was like, oh, I don't know, spaced over the last spaced, 10 years apart or something, but this is like one after the other, like year after year, and
And it's the industry that they're in, right? It's like the jobs that they're doing. It's like, it's not just like random stuff. It's like they're in the same type of situation. So, okay, yeah. Could it be completely coincidental? Yes. Uh, have we ever heard about this kind of stuff before? No, and it hasn't been like a part of the lore that we've heard of, like, it's not, these aren't random people. These are like people who were involved in stuff that, uh, you know, the knowledge that they have and maybe the stuff that they've heard is maybe a bit much. And maybe they're being corrected. That's a terrible way to say it, but
it's a valid way to say it. Well, let's go ahead and watch the last video here.
let's do it.
Where the hell is the
All right, a dozen scientists are either dead or missing. Now, let me walk you through this because it's a little strange. Not just any scientists, these are people with ties to nuclear programs, meaning space defense, high-level government work. Those kind of jobs where you're going to know things. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, well, he sent a letter to the FBI warning these cases, quote, may represent a grave threat to U.S. national security, and even raised questions about a, quote, possible sinister connection. So what's that actually mean? What is actually happening? Well, the details are eerily similar. Here's what we know. One scientist vanished on a hike. Another walked out of his Albuquerque home with a gun never seen again. An astrophysicist was found shot dead on his porch in LA, and two Los Alamos employees disappeared just weeks apart, both leaving behind their car, keys, wallets, and phones. Now, NASA says it's working with relevant agencies, and even the president has weighed in on this. Now, there's no confirmed link between these cases. I have to be clear about that. But with this many people in this line of work, with circumstances this similar, you have to ask, is this a series of tragic, unrelated events, or is something else brewing that we just don't know about?
I mean, she pretty much summed it up there.
She summed up everything that we needed to do. Yeah, I mean, that was 100% right on, and it's such a weird situation. It's like this has not happened in the last like even 10 year 5 years. We've
Right.
heard anything about this. This is a kind of a new thing, and to me, there's a little bit of traction there.
I think so too. And with everything that, even though it's unrelated or it's not the same, I'm sorry, even though it's not the same project, and even if they're, either current or retired, but when you kind of like, again, if you had a murder board and you see, okay, there's one that's working on, or who was working on anti-gravity. There's another one that helped with the space rocket or whatever. I mean, like you can kind of like in totality when you kind of put everything all on one board, then it kind of paints a picture. Now, I
Yep.
I I I don't think we do. I don't think we do want to go into the conspiracy space here, but it's tough to ignore. Even if it's apophenia, it's tough to ignore it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's too convenient, and especially at post 2017 when we had a guy like Lou Elizondo and and et al. Sort of come forward with the fact that the federal government was still continuing to look into some of this stuff. It's like, was that kind of, it's not false flag, but it's like you look at it's like, were they trying to do some sort of like intelligence operation,
Mhm.
against people who really are like seeing these things and getting ahead of it? That to me makes a lot of sense. And ever since that time, Elizondo, for instance, is another one of those guys who's like lost credibility within the community. I'm not like some like hardcore, neither are you, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that there's some, I don't want to say nefarious activities behind the scenes, but it seems like it's just too coincidental. And it's
Yeah.
like, and are they just assuming that we're not watching? But obviously not. So that's the thing, is like, is it that, or are they trying to send a message? Because it's all over the news. Like this has been happening, and the people are seeing it on the CNN. They're seeing it on Fox. They're seeing it on the News Nation. They're seeing it on Newsmax. They're seeing it. Is this like sort of sending a message? Because like, you better not say anything, because if you do, we're going to take you out. And so that leads, either one of two things. Like, one, there's some realism behind it. It makes it seem more real. Or two, it's like we've got programs behind the scenes and we're just trying to cover it up with the idea that it is UFOs, right?
Well,
And if it's that case, that's very dangerous to people who've just been disalived, I guess you can say.
yeah. The uh, like I said, it's Well, first of all, I just want to say to the U.S. government or whoever else or whoever might be watching this, we're not part of that. So please don't unalive us. And if you do,
We're not a threat. We're not a threat.
if our viewers or subscribers or listeners all of a sudden hear something weird about either of us, please know that it wasn't us. But hey,
Exactly.
yeah. So for those watching on YouTube, if you uh, have any comments about this, please write them in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And for those listening, yeah, let us know your thoughts as well. It's very, very strange. I like I said at the start, you gave me a little bit of a heads up about this topic, and I'm glad that I actually did not um, succumb to my curiosity and research this ahead of time. So, and having like a trio of videos that kind of, pretty much said similar things, but certainly kind of punctuated the topic even more. So
Yeah.
I'm delighted to go through it. So, well, folks, if you enjoy this content, please give it a like and share it across your socials to help get the word out about our show. If you hadn't already done so, please subscribe. And on YouTube, hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on future episodes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.